Good morning, everybody.
Congressman DioGuardi has an outstanding congressional record. Congressman DioGuardi shows great interest in commerce and the commercial relations between, among others, the United States and Israel. Therefore, we appreciate very much the fact that he found the ability to take some time off his very busy schedule and visit us here and learn some things firsthand. And I hope that such visits as this, which may give both you congressmen and members of the team the opportunity to learn firsthand about the business basis here in this country, will help us in encouraging American business people to show more interest in the potential of this market. As a token of this visit, I would like to take this opportunity and introduce Congressman DioGuardi, the Medal of the Israel-America Chamber of Industry and Commerce. And without further ado, I would like to hand over the microphone to you, Congressman. You probably have some things on your mind which you'd like to express, as we've seen already in this morning's newspaper.
Well, thank you very much for this. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody, and good morning. I feel right at home because you're business people. You're my kind of people. I'm never going to forget my background, that I'm a businessman first, a politician second, because I think today, with the complexities we face in the world, certainly in the United States with our huge trade deficits and domestic deficits, and here in Israel and the opportunities that you talked about, Joshua, we need more kinds of business thinking because there is a lot more to be done. There are a lot more opportunities to be identified. And in this way, I think we will begin to develop that strong economic relationship that we need to overcome many problems. The trip is not going to stop when I leave, because it's going to be part of a continuum of activity, just as it has been for me with Israel in the last 4 years. I came to Israel in 1984, January of 84, but was invited before I had any thought I would run for Congress. And I enjoyed that trip as a businessman. I then came back after I was elected the first time in 1985 to continue that theme of building economic bridges, and here now I'm back for the third time to be even more specific, to see whether or not I can build a specific economic plan with Israel, with my district, as an example for others to follow. The fact is that we're going to continue having a dialogue with people like Ellie Streit and Alana Gerard, who's here, another good friend, an American who came here 8 years ago to raise her 2 sons here and has been very helpful to me in communications, as Ellie has been in identifying opportunities, mutual opportunities here in Israel. So it seems to me that we have got to not just talk about helping each other, we've got to do things, and by our deeds we shall be known. We've got to set an example for others by doing. And I couldn't think of any better way to do it than to join with Margaret Soda, who represents my great county, one of the most successful economically in the United States of America, to see how we could identify companies and industries so we could start building that economic bridge with this trip, but not end it with this trip. Go back and do the research so that we can link companies and industries together for mutual benefit, and then point to it and say, if you really want to help Israel, the time for talk is over. The time for taking pictures is over. Why don't you identify in your district, Mr. Congressman, or in your state, Mr. Senator, those industries and companies that have a natural relationship with the industries and companies in Israel, and accelerate that process, facilitate that process, because that's the best way to help Israel help itself. One must conclude that Israel's future is in ideas, and in developing those ideas, and then licensing those ideas to the rest of the world. There's no substitute for trade and investment. And that has to be the thing that both our countries concentrate on, because that's going to be the permanent bridge for Israel's self-sufficiency, Israel's future, and, not the least, Israel's dignity. Well, ladies and gentlemen, keep doing the good job that I feel you're doing under extraordinary, stressful circumstances. I will match your efforts by continuing to project your values, your concerns, the opportunities that I think have to be projected, and hopefully we can be successful, and I can be successful, so that I can point to this success as a model for what other congressmen who I know love Israel the way I do, you've got many, many friends in my country, so that they begin to understand that it's not enough just to vote every now and then for Israel and take a trip here every now and then, but to think about Israel almost every week in providing that linkage that we need between the companies and the industries here in Israel and in the United States of America. Thank you very much.
This windmill have is quite a special story. Now look carefully on the right-hand side and you'll see that windmill.
Development they're building up there. I noticed the new house.
Yes, well what you see out there is new neighborhoods of Jerusalem. What they do in a way, maybe Rome is built on 7 hills. Jerusalem is built on about 15.
Can I sit on the highest hill here, or one of the highest hills?
This is the highest hill.
Well, I'm going again in November. It'll be my third time.
Sure. I stopped in November because I'm 40 years a member of the House.
Well, God bless you.
I have a little bit to rest.
It's my turn. My turn to do it now.
Good.
They should. Absolutely should. Oh, big and
You want coconut?
What is it?
Nuts, coconuts, and sesame seed. 1 shekel each. I'll take one of these. How was it? Good? A little piece, right?
So weird. Let me try a coconut.
Not bad. Okay.
Will hit certain, I would say, could be a bow. Yeah, so really what you're saying.
People live they have condominiums where they're allowed
Because between 1948 and 1967, this mountain that was built.
What I've seen so far is beautiful. I can't wait to see the rest of the world too.
I think it's wonderful. I think it's marvelous that the congressman takes the time to come here. It's a fabulous, fabulous trip. We're seeing history in the making. It's great.
And your name?
My name is Andrew Vogel.
Good to see you, Andrew.
I wanted to thank you for your support of Soviet Jewry and ask you to continue your support.
Thank you. Did you know about that before they told you?
Yes. I work for the Student Coalition for Soviet Jewry.
Excellent.
And we run a lobby effort every February.
Excellent. Did you come down to Washington?
Yeah, right.
Great. Well, I brought my family and my friends from Westchester County to support Israel.
Thank you very much.
And to send a message back to my district and to the country that it's a great place to be. And don't be intimidated by what you see on TV, because that is not representative of what's going on. And when you hear it, it's just great, isn't it?
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's very exciting to see U.S. senators and congressmen supporting Israel's actions and continuing their support for Soviet Jews, emigration to Israel and the United States. It's very exciting to see leaders of our own country come to Israel, which is so important to Jews as a democratic foothold in the Middle East.
What's your name?
Josh.
How you doing, Josh?
What do you think about meeting the congressman?
I'm glad. It's my first time I ever met a congressman from Israel.
And what do you think of him?
Nice.
And what do you think about congressmen coming to Israel? You think it's good?
Especially that I'm here.
But we just stopped for a minute to look at one of the more beautiful sites here in Jerusalem, the Jewish quarter here, looking off at Mount Olive. It's an interesting story, but that hotel that you see in the distance is built on a Jewish gravesite, and that was one of the indignities that the Jordanians committed when they got here back in 1948. Obviously, it couldn't be undone, but it kind of stands as testimonial to man's inhumanity to man, kind of.
Now, you remember I told you that there's a mountain that is called Mount Moriah. On top of that mountain, we are talking about Abraham, that wanted to sacrifice his son Isaac. And he was stopped by God. The first alliance between God and the human being. That's why King David wanted to build the temple, the first temple, on top of that mountain. He was, in a way, punished by God, and only his son Solomon built the first temple 900 years BC. That temple was destroyed about 350 years later. Jews were scattered around the world, and then when they came back from Babylon mainly, the Jewish community went up to Babylon. When they came back to Babylon, they built the second temple.
I'm fine.
Oh, this is the old temple.
I got the family up.
It's nice to be here in Jerusalem with your daughter and your wife and your son. This is a magnificent city. I'm going to write some good words for the country of Israel and the county of Westchester, because that's what this trip is all about, trying to build a better economic bridge between Westchester County and between Israel. And you might say that we're also in the process building a human bridge, trying to get more people to understand that this is a nice place to come.
Here we are.
Up here.
Here we are. We're standing in front of the Wailing Wall, Lois and I just separated. She went into the women's side, and I went into the men's side of the prayer area. And it was very moving. You want to say anything, Lois?
No. What do you think of Israel so far?
Oh, we're having a marvelous
Wonderful
time. The city is
So
totally
beautiful.
safe, and it's just great. It's our first day in Israel, day in Jerusalem, and we're enthralled with it.
And with what you've seen, would you recommend that people come here?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
The great city in the world.
And totally safe.
How do you feel about the congressman's mission here?
Important. I think that if we carry through, important things can happen between Israel and the United States in commerce.
You ready to take them? Whoa!
God's talk.
And the city of Jerusalem, to me, as I look at it, and I look at the hills of Jerusalem, it is a very peaceful vision. And hopefully that's a prayer that will be taken up by the rest of the world.
Joe, before we sign off, I think your friends want to tell you and tell all of Westchester something that most of us are not aware of. Long before this trip and long before Joseph DioGuardi was a congressman, he was here in Israel as an accountant and a man that knew about economy and could help Israel. So I have to tell all of our Jewish friends back in Westchester County that this man was a friend to Israel long before politics came into the game, and we all feel very proud to have been with him this past week because Israel saluted him and recognized him as just that, not a politician, but a friend to Israel who's always been of help to them.
I think how beautiful an experience this is to join with about 4,000 years of history, be associated with it at this moment.
I think what we can look towards is maybe doing this once a year and inviting more of our friends to come with us, because I think it's meaningful to touch a place like this once a year, because it brings you back to those visceral feelings we all have for religion and for people and for doing some good things. And I think what you see here today is Israel's doing a lot of good things. So I want to do something that no other congressman is doing, and if it works, and I believe if I control it, it will work. That's why I'm here. And Margaret's going to help, and professionals such as Elana Gerard and Ellie Straight, who are a good friend of mine, they're going to help. We believe then we can do something that will be a model for other congressmen to follow. I think it's doable. When I see the resourcefulness of the Israeli people, when I see what they've created from nothing in the deserts, when I see the determination and the tenacity of the Israeli people, there is no limit to what can be done. All you need is to focus, to be creative, and to get some capital. And I believe that there are ways to get that capital besides charity and besides Israeli bonds. And those are important. I don't mean to demean them. But I want to fulfill the dream of Maimonides, the great Jewish philosopher, who said the best way to give, the 8th level of giving, is not to give a man a fish, but to teach him how to fish, make him your partner, not your slave. I expect to work with Margaret over the next 3 months, working with Alana and Ellie Straight, who is going to come to the United States and help us identify the natural trading partners in Westchester County for Israel.
And our county is one of the most affluent in the United States, being so near New York City, and yet we have the suburbs that you referred to as you thought maybe more a bedroom community or not so business oriented. But actually we now have more people commuting into Westchester to work than we have commuting out. The small privately held companies, manufacturing companies that are in our older cities would be natural partners to try to link up.
Just to summarize, because this is now getting down to the end of the trip, I'm delighted that you were able to join me, because I was going to come again. This is my 3rd trip, as you know, to see if I could do something even more specific than was done on the prior 2 trips by trying to identify certain companies and industries here that would be natural trading partners with businesses and industries in Westchester County. So having you along as the Director of Economic Development is a natural towards that solution. How do you feel about it?
Well, first of all, I have to tell you how impressed I am at the esteem with which both businessmen and women in the country and the government officials hold you. I mean, it's evident that you are a friend of Israel. You've been here 3 times now, and they see you as someone who's really interested in helping and not just with words. So for me to come and at this time, after you've done that networking, and then be put together with companies that are ready to either look for joint ventures or possibly maybe cheaper production if they could do it for one of our companies over here with that robotics firm that we saw. Any practical application now of trying to see mutually beneficial to a Westchester company and to an Israeli company, I think is doable, and that's what we're going to now undertake to try to put your goals and dreams and objectives into reality.
And it'll be a two-way street, and that's the object, I think, of the free trade agreement that we've had now with Israel 3 years, that's now being even refined to work better. It's to create trade both ways.
Both ways, exactly.
And I think that the real solution for Israel has to be an economic one. Maybe we in Westchester County have an advantage because we have such a well-developed economy there with so many publicly traded companies headquartered there and large privately held companies. Maybe we can't be the role model for these other districts to follow.
And I like the fact that you're willing to take the time and the effort to say, let me be a role model, let Joe DioGuardi's district be a role model, because if it's successful and if we can accomplish this in Westchester, then you can say to congressmen all over the country, now, you all say you want to be a friend to Israel, let's see now, take my practical application, I've done it in Westchester, emulate me around the country, and I think that's something that you should be very proud of.
As I said before we came, the time for talking and taking pictures is over. The time now is to do something.
We have organizations in Westchester, the Westchester County Association, the World Trade Club, the Westchester County Chamber of Commerce. Everybody will be cooperative, I'm sure, because their members can benefit economically from this. So I think that we'll be able to tap those resources.
What we can hope to do is not only do the analysis work to make something happen that's concrete, but maybe look to this as an annual trip, an annual mission where we can get more and more constituents from Westchester County, like Bud and Lois Teich and High Spitz, Judge Spitz and his wife Jean and the others who joined us. It seems to me that it's a good place to come once a year. And maybe we can not only do some business, but have some fun. And with that, I appreciate your joining me on this trip.
Thank you for asking me to. I enjoyed it.